Hi, boys and girls. I'm Greg from the Scary Spirits Podcast. Today I'm going to show you how to make the Vampire Bite cocktail, which is the featured cocktail in tonight's episode. First thing we're going to need to do is to make our bloody recipe to rim the glass. So we're going to take our honey. I'm going to put some in a shot glass, like so. I'm going to add some red food coloring, just a couple drops. Yep. Then we're going to mix that up. Delicious. And then we're going to pour that in a saucer so we can rim our glass. The recipe calls for corn syrup. I'm using honey because that's what I had. It's fine. Honey just adds a little bit of taste. It's fine. So then we're going to take our pint glass, our Scary Spirits pint glass, and we're going to rim the glass with our bloody honey mixture. Ooh, awesome sauce. Alright, got our rimmed glass. Time to make the cocktail. We're going to add some ice to our pint glass. To that, we're going to add, recipe says 1 ounce of vodka. I'm going to use 1.5 because I'm crazy like that. 1.5 ounces of vodka. Then we're going to fill it with 7-Up. Alright. Then lastly, the recipe calls for 2 drops of Kool-Aid liquid water enhancer. I don't have that. I have Kroger Black Cherry. So that's what I'm going to use. 2 drops, 1 short squirt. Awesome. I'm going to stir that up. Gives it kind of a pink color. Delicious. So there you go. The Vampire Bite cocktail. I dig it. Yeah, good. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
Picture this. You're a famous actor. You've just been cast in a big-time vampire movie. The director takes you aside and wants your input on the vampire character you'll play. You panic and research vampires. You've come up with a genius idea. Your character must have bat DNA. But what kind of bat should you choose? Maybe the fruit bat. It has excellent vision, is a large bat, and feeds on fruit juice. Or should it be the vampire bat, which can walk, run, and jump, has evolved into a blood drinker, and occasionally will feast on human blood? Stay tuned to this week's episode of the Scary Spirits podcast, number 21, Fright Night, to learn which bat DNA Chris Sarandon chooses to incorporate into his character. I know what bat I'd choose. Cheers.
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So if you're ready, let's go.
Hi, I'm Greg,
Hi, I'm Karen.
and welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. The podcast that combines the two very different but highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm okay.
Oh, a little bit of inflection
Yeah, a
there.
little reflection.
Yeah.
Switching it up.
Little less Eeyore, not quite Tigger.
So, Karen, I believe this week's film was your choice, was it? Was it not?
It was, but do you want to go over corrections first?
Yes, Karen, I do have a correction from last week's episode. Apparently, I said that Dennis Franz or Franz, whatever, played Sipowicz on Hill Street Blues, and that is totally incorrect. He played Sipowicz on NYPD Blue.
I think that's an easy one to confuse.
Although, yes, exactly, because Dennis Franz was also in Hill Street Blues. He was in both of them. He just played Sipowicz on NYPD Blue. And that's really where I know him from, know him and love him from. So, sorry. You can all stop emailing us at scaryspiritspodcast@gmail.com to tell me I was wrong.
Oh, no, keep doing it. I like when Greg's wrong.
No, but you can keep emailing us with your comments and your suggestions. And if we do make mistakes and we don't catch it, please point it out to us, right?
I'm sure we make many mistakes that we don't know.
Yes. scaryspiritspodcast@gmail.com. We love
can-
interacting with our listener.
Right. You can tell us how wonderful we are, too. We'll take that.
Yeah, if you want.
Maybe then you'll be more than okay one day.
All right, Karen, this was your choice, was it? Was it not?
It was.
Did you have any errors or corrections?
Well, not that I know of, but I'm sure I did.
Yeah, I think you were good. All right, so what film have you chosen for us this week, Karen?
I chose Fright Night.
The newer version or the older version?
Oh, the older version, of course.
Yes, the Fright Night from 1985.
That would be the one.
Oh, thank God, because that's the one I watched.
Well, that would be interesting to see what was different, wouldn't it?
Yes. Why might you have chosen this film, Karen?
Well, you never like to accept my reasoning that vampires are cool. So there is another reason, even though that's enough for me. And it's Roddy Mcdowell's birthday 2 days after this episode comes out. So on Friday, September 17th, Roddy McDowell, who stars in this movie, it's his happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Roddy. Karen, do we have a cocktail for this week's episode?
We do. It's called the Vampire Bite.
How would I make that?
It's pretty easy, actually. Start with a tall glass, and you want to rim it with honey that's had red food coloring in it, or corn syrup with red food coloring in it. And then it drips down the side, very much like blood. You take your favorite citrus soda, 7-Up, Sprite, or some such soda, and you pour it in the glass with ice, and then add a shot of vodka. Stir it up, then add a few drops of water enhancing flavor of the red variety. I used black cherry, Mio's black cherry. It's the liquid that comes in the little containers. You add a couple drops.
I used black cherry too.
I don't know what to say.
Great minds.
Yeah.
Or I couldn't find regular cherry. But I like black cherry better anyway.
It's very refreshing. It's easy to drink. There's not a lot of flavor outside the Sprite or 7-Up, obviously, because it's vodka. So it goes down easy.
Yep, it's good.
Be fun to make at a party.
Should we give our listener time to make their own?
They don't need as much time for this one, but sure.
Okay. Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
All right, Karen. Anything else we need to cover, or are we ready to get into this film from 1985?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I am ready. But Karen, I don't think we've covered 1985 yet. Do you remember 1985?
I do. It was a good year.
Yes. Yeah, it was a good year. Yeah, good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, had a lot of fun in 1985, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure I remember 1985 very fondly.
What I remember of it, I do remember fondly.
Exactly.
All right. Karen, might you have a short synopsis to share with us?
I do.
Well, please go on.
Teenage Charlie Brewster is a horror film junkie, so it's no surprise that when a reclusive new neighbor named Jerry Dandridge moves next door, Brewster becomes convinced he is a vampire. It's also no surprise when nobody believes him. However, after strange events begin to occur, Charlie has no choice but to turn to the only person who could possibly help, washed-up television vampire killer Peter Vincent.
Yes.
Pretty accurate.
That's very accurate. All right, Karen, ready to get to the film now.
Let's give it a whirl.
All right. So we start with a full moon,
And a wolf howl.
and then we have credits.
Yeah, but this is your favorite kind of credits.
It is. There's things to watch while the credits roll. Apparently, there's a vampire movie on the TV. We see we pan down the street from the full moon, and we come to a house, and we go into the window, the upstairs window, and we see a vampire movie on the TV, and it's Roddy Mcdowell, but we learn his character's name is Peter Vincent, vampire killer. Correct?
Yes, it's a movie, yes, that he stars in.
He's basically a late night horror TV host.
Yes.
Peter Vincent. And he likes to show his own movies, apparently.
Well, I would.
Well, why wouldn't you?
I mean, if I was a horror movie host, I would show all my films, my extensive collection that I starred in.
Yes. And then we see who we learn is Charlie and Amy. And they're on the floor making out, right? Or kissy facing, as you like to say.
They are, but there was something in the movie, I don't know if you saw it or not, where he's the vampire killer and he's about to go kill the vampire and he's holding the stake in the wrong direction. So the point is actually towards him and he runs at the vampires. I just thought that was kind of funny.
Did not notice.
But yes, they are making out on the bedroom floor.
And we find out it's Peter Vincent on Fright Night Theater. That's the name of the late night movie show.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Past Prime Playhouse.
Or the Cool Ghoul.
Or the Cool Ghoul, but more of the
Or
Past Prime
Elvira.
Playhouse.
Yeah.
If you were in Cincinnati, you had the Past Prime Playhouse.
But who hosted it?
Bob Shreve.
That's right. Okay. Couldn't think of it.
And then apparently, as Charlie and Amy are making out, Charlie is like moving his hands up Amy's torso.
And Amy's not thrilled with it.
Yeah, she's not thrilled. And she's
It's like, don't you want to see Peter Vincent? The old distraction technique.
Yeah. And Charlie says, "My God, Amy, we've been going out for a year."
Yeah, they fight over intimacy issues.
Yeah, but Amy says she's afraid. She's scared. But then she looks deeply in Charlie's eyes and says, "Let's get into bed."
But he is distracted.
I know.
Amazingly. After
But
a
then-
year of waiting.
But then Charlie sees a couple people next door with a coffin out his window, carrying it to like the cellar. And he grabs his binoculars.
They should have their own credit in this movie. He grabs them a lot.
Yes. And then Amy gets in bed and takes off her blouse.
She's ready.
But Charlie is preoccupied with what is going on next door.
He misses his chance.
So he's a peeper.
All these movies we watch and everybody's a damn stalker in them.
Would you call him a peeper?
Yeah.
Watching the neighbors with the binoculars?
I would call him a peeper.
Well, good thing he is. I think.
Is it?
Yes, it is. Of course, Amy gets frustrated because she's there with,
She's waiting.
not quite bearing all, but
She gets mad because he won't stop looking out the window.
correct. And then the camera zooms in on a story of a man being murdered in the rail yard on the news.
Well, they go downstairs, which it was amazing to me. Charlie's mom's down there and they're kind of fighting. And she says, "Are you having a lover's spat?"
Well, they're fighting, and Amy says down there in front of mom and everybody, "Do you want to make love or not?" Or something like that. Right?
I don't know how things worked in your house, but there was no way I could be upstairs with the door closed watching a movie.
Yeah.
That wouldn't
fly
happen
in my house either, but
no.
we could stay downstairs as late as we wanted watching movies.
But not with the door closed.
No, it was open. No, there was no door to close. We were down.
That's the point of having it. That's the whole point.
Yes.
And then, yes, the newscaster comes on and talks about a murder.
So then we cut to the next day at school, and Amy is giving Charlie the cold shoulder.
Well, and we meet Evil
Ed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
When we find out Charlie's failing trig, and we meet his friend, Evil Ed.
So let me ask you right now, since we're talking about them being in high school and he's taking trig, how old are these people?
Well, I think did I take trig?
They're probably seniors.
17.
They're seniors, right?
So.
17, 18?
She looks about 30.
Wow.
He looks a little older, but
at the time of the filming, Amanda,
I think she was distractingly old to me, and especially later in the film. She does not.
It's Amanda Beers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Amanda Beers.
Who plays Amy.
Yeah, and she was on Married with Children and other things. Who'd she play in Married with Children?
The next door neighbor.
Yeah. Marcy. That's right. She was Marcy on Married with Children. So at the time of the filming, she was 27.
She looks 27.
And the guy who plays Charlie was 24.
I was going to say he looked 21.
Because I was kind of like looking every now and then like, hey, I think he has a 5 o'clock shadow. Like he needs a shave. And some of us did shave when we were 17 and 18, but I don't think we had most of us did not have a 5 o'clock shadow. I did have a friend or two who did.
You had a friend? Awesome.
So after school, Charlie gets in his Mustang Fastback.
It's a pretty beat up Mustang. What year is that?
Well, I originally wrote 1967 ? But after researching it, it is not a 67.
Oh, but I was going to guess it was a 67.
That was good. It was a 66.
Ah.
So only 1 year off. So Karen, I'm just going to go right to the high retail value on this one because you always go for the high, the perfect condition one. So Karen, what would a 1966 Mustang Fastback in excellent condition go for today?
Well, I know what I could guess, but I don't think that's it. So I'm going to say 24,000.
So an excellent condition, like a mint condition, whatever, 1966 Mustang Fastback goes for $58,400.
That's crazy.
Do you want to take a guess at the average?
24.
32,500. Would you like to take a guess at what you could buy that for off the lot in 1966?
4,200.
$2,713 was the MSRP on that vehicle.
Okay. I have no idea. Obviously, every week we learn that I have no idea.
So Charlie comes home in his 1966 Mustang Fastback, and a car lets out a girl who I'm pretty sure is a hooker, and she's going next door.
She's a pretty woman. That's what I wrote. But yeah, she asks for 99
She looked
oak.
familiar, but
Yeah, I didn't place her.
it wasn't who I thought it was. I don't know. Next, we see Charlie upstairs studying his trig.
Which is hilarious because he said he needed to go upstairs to study. And I thought for sure he was going to go grab his binoculars because the pretty woman was next door, but he was actually studying.
He was actually
trig.
studying.
Yeah.
And he hears a scream from next door. Next, we cut to a restaurant. Would you call it a restaurant or a diner?
I called it a diner.
Yeah, it looked like a diner. But 1985?
Could have been like a Frisch's.
I don't know. There weren't many places like that I knew of around us. So
Friendlies. I guess that only had ice cream. Well, no, it had really other stuff.
yeah,
Anyway.
it's a restaurant. Charlie is in there eating and studying at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? He's got his books open. He's studying, and Amy walks in.
And he's happy to see her.
Yeah, he is. Of course he is. But then Charlie is distracted by a picture of the hooker you saw earlier on the news.
Yeah, that she's been murdered.
Yeah, she's been murdered and her body was found. And then we meet Evil Ed. Or we already met Evil Ed, right?
Yeah, we did.
We did. But Evil Ed says, it's the second murder in 2 days, and both of them had their head chopped off. And he laughs, which must be why they call him Evil Ed. He might have a dark sense of humor. Then Amy gets angry and shoves a burger in Charlie's face.
Oh, I thought it was a donut. Okay, so it's a burger.
It was half a burger.
He's not listening to her. He's only paying attention to the
He's
TV.
preoccupied, yes,
Again.
with what's going on in the world around him.
When she sits down, he says, I'm sorry. I never want to fight with you. They're like, I love you. I love you. And then she thinks he's going to talk, and all he is mesmerized by the TV. So,
Yes. So next, Charlie arrives back home. And then he decides to go next door and investigate the cellar.
yeah. And he sees a guy inside painting the windows black.
I don't know if he sees them, but we do.
Well, we do. Okay. Yes, true.
Yes, there's a guy inside painting the inside of the windows with black paint to keep the sunlight out, I assume. And Charlie starts to open the cellar door, and the guy who's painting runs him off.
Yeah.
Next, we see Charlie watching a horror movie in his room while he's looking at the house next door with his binoculars.
And it's a vampire film.
It is. It is Scars of Dracula, starring Christopher Lee.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
I don't think I have either.
Interesting.
But Charlie falls asleep, but then he
Yeah.
wakes up just in time.
Wait, did you see how he was sleeping? His neck was all, and I just looked at him and thought, if I woke up now after sleeping in that position, his head's all tilted and he's in a chair. I said, man, I would be hurting. I wouldn't be able to look back to see if there was a car in the next lane if I slept like that.
Yes, true. I agree.
And the TV is all fuzzy when he wakes up. So all broadcasting is ended.
Yeah. What did you call that?
Ant races.
Ant races.
Yeah. So we know it's late. That was a way in
Yes.
1985
Off the air.
to let people know that it's late at night.
Yeah. Get your ass to sleep. Nothing to see here.
Yeah, it's
Go
done.
to bed. But Charlie wakes up just in time to see the guy next door with a girl through the window.
Yeah, close the damn curtains. What?
Well,
If you're a vampire.
and we see two bare breasts, Karen.
Yes, because he's got his binocs out again.
Yes. Charlie's watching binoculars. And then he sees that the guy has fangs.
Yep.
But then the guy looks at Charlie.
Right at
Sees him.
Charlie. Right
Yes.
at him.
So Charlie's caught peeping.
Yep.
And then the guy across the way pulls down the shade with his long fingernailed fingers.
His vamp hand. We see that often in this.
Yes. So next, Charlie goes to his mom's bedroom. Is that what he does?
Yeah, he runs to his mom to wake her up.
Tries to tell her that something going on next door.
She doesn't believe him. She seems like a deep sleeper. She's confused by what he's trying to say. So he just
Correct.
leaves her.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he does see a guy who we learn is Billy. Well, I'm not sure he's ever named, but his name is Billy.
His name. Yeah. Bill.
Through the window, and he runs out to watch him. And Billy puts what appears to be a body in a bag in the back of his Jeep.
Yeah, Charlie's hiding in the bushes at this point. He's run
Yes.
out the house and watching. And so he does. He sees Bill load up the Jeep.
Do you know what kind of Jeep that is, Karen?
The only Jeep I know is a Wrangler.
Well, that's what I originally wrote, Jeep Wrangler. But again, I was wrong. It's not a Wrangler because the Wrangler did not come out until 1987. 2
Really?
years after this film came out. So apparently it's a Jeep CJ7. Any idea what an excellent condition Jeep CJ7, I'm assuming from 1985, goes for now? Because I couldn't find out the exact year of this one.
$11,050.
Nope. Sorry. On the high end, a 1985 Jeep CJ7 goes for $19,300.
Okay.
Would you like to take a guess at the MSRP of a 1985 Jeep CJ7?
64,000.
64,000?
No, 6,400. Sorry. Wow. That would be special. 6,400. Sorry. I guess this drink is a little stronger than I thought.
It's not bad. You're only 800 away. So it's 7282 was the MSRP. So
I'm talking without a radio.
And a cassette.
Yeah.
Because that was the option back then.
Or air conditioning. So after he puts the body bag into the Jeep, you see a first person view of something running along the roof, which jumps and then flies. The vampire then turns into a man and gives Bill the purse that he forgot.
Yes.
He said, you
he
forgot
does. He
something.
forgot this. Yes.
And he gives him the purse. And this whole time, Charlie's in the bushes. And then what happens next is so relatable. Because what happens?
Mom comes out.
Yeah. And yells for him.
Charlie.
So then everybody knows that Charlie's in the bushes. And the vampire's eating an apple.
Yes, he's eating an apple.
And he's scanning the area for Charlie because now he knows Charlie is out there. But again, in this movie, I did not think that vampires ate regular people food.
Well, this is the first time we see who we learn is Jerry eating an apple.
Yes. And he throws the apple right at Charlie.
Yes. Would you like to know why Jerry is eating an apple?
You know why he's eating an apple?
I do.
Why is he eating an apple?
Apparently, Chris Sarandon, who plays Jerry, after doing research for the character, figured that Jerry would probably have a lot of fruit bat DNA in his makeup. So he decided to eat an apple all the time. Yes.
Well, that's interesting.
I thought it was good. I dig it. Use your fruit bat DNA and eat your apple.
All right. I just thought it was odd.
That was the very first thing that came up on the x-ray.
Oh.
So then Charlie comes in and Mom.
You got to think before, you got to think Chris Sarandon walks in with that and the director has to do an eyeball roll, right? Like actors. Okay, whatever.
Well, there's more about what Chris Sarandon wanted to do that they didn't coming, but
okay.
So Charlie comes in and Mom makes him some hot chocolate.
As moms do.
With marshmallows. And she thinks Charlie had a nightmare. Did I already say that? I don't remember.
No, you didn't. But yes, she does think he had a nightmare.
Yes. So then Charlie tries to tell Amy about the vampire. Like we cut from him and Mom to him and Amy. And
with
they both
basically
have the reaction.
Yeah, the same reaction. Yeah.
And they all think Charlie's nuts. And Charlie wants to go to the police, but Amy stops him. Says, you can't go to the police and tell them there's a vampire. He says, like, okay, well, I'll go to the police, but I won't mention the vampire part, right?
Yeah.
Because there has been a lot of murders lately in the town. So I'm sure the police would be interested. So Charlie and the homicide detective go to Jerry's house. They knock on the door and Billy answers. He tells them that Jerry is away on business.
The old away on business ploy.
Yes. And Charlie's looking around and he sees an old painting that kind of looks like Amy.
He does.
And then the lieutenant starts questioning Billy, and Billy has all the answers. And he asks Charlie, did you actually see the body that you say I carried? And Charlie admits he did not.
Yeah, Billy says he did take out some trash.
Yes. And he offers to show the cop the bags out back of the trash he took out. And Charlie says, let's go down to the basement. And they want to know why. And of course, he says there's a coffin down there. And that's when he, spills the vampire information. And then, of course, the cop thinks he's a nut.
Yeah, and he leaves.
Yes.
Well, they leave the house, and then the lieutenant speeds off.
Correct. And he says if he bothers them again, he's going to throw him in jail.
And then Charlie does something kind of funny. He looks at his digital watch. Did you notice that?
Was it a Casio?
I think it was a Casio, but it didn't have the calculator on it.
Okay.
And then Billy stares at him menacingly.
Then Charlie goes to Evil Ed's house and tells him about the vampire. He's basically just trying to find someone to believe him.
He asks Evil Ed, how do I protect myself? And he's supposed to be a horror film junkie. I mean, he should know the basics, right?
Well, apparently he does, but he has to give him $8 before he tells him. He says, I have $8. I'll give it to you if you tell me how to protect myself or get rid of this vampire next door to me. And Ed tells Charlie to get a cross, some garlic, and some holy water.
He does say the cross only works if he has faith.
Does he?
Mm-hmm.
I missed that part.
Yeah, you must have faith in the cross. And then he says, a vampire can't enter the home without being invited by the rightful owner.
Yes.
So what do you know is going to happen right here?
Mom's going to invite Jerry over for tea.
Yes. Or Bloody Marys, one or the other.
Yes. Next scene, we see Charlie hammering his window shut with nails. And I made a note. He does have a poster of a Shelby Cobra on his wall. He's a Mustang guy. He has posters of Mustangs on his wall as well. But then we hear Mom call him downstairs. Says, Charlie, come downstairs. Someone I want you to meet.
Dun,
Right?
dun, dun.
And of course, we know.
We know, yes.
It's Jerry.
Yes, it is.
And they're both drinking Bloody Marys, as you just said. Correct?
Yeah, which is a missed opportunity for a drink. If I had watched this before last week, I would have picked the Bloody Mary.
But that was low-hanging fruit.
True.
Of course.
But still
right?
tasty. You know.
I don't know. I'm not a Bloody Mary guy, I don't think. So then Jerry says, what's the matter, Charlie? Did you think I wouldn't come over without being invited first? You're quite right, as a matter of fact. I think I'll be over quite a bit. Right?
Yeah, now that I'm welcome, I'll drop by anytime I wish.
Yeah, as long as your mom is okay. Then Charlie excuses himself and says he has to finish his homework.
Yeah, he backs out of the room like he's in the presence of the queen. You're not allowed to turn your back on the queen, so he does not turn his back.
I suppose. Then Jerry says, see you later, Charlie. Soon.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's what I've written.
Okay.
Next, we see Charlie asleep in his bedroom with a cross.
Well, I would have a cross too.
If you believe. And he hears something on the roof.
I told you I slept with a rosary around my neck when I watched Salem's Lot. So you don't have to 100% believe just to. Oh, you mean in the cross? Do you mean in the cross or in vampires or both?
Whatever.
Okay.
But he hears something on the roof.
He does.
And then he hears noises from downstairs in the house. And he goes to investigate, holding his cross the whole time. Turns out it's just branches brushing up against the window. But then we see Jerry in Mom's bedroom as Mom is sleeping.
With the eye. What is that? The eye. It's not an eye patch, but she's got the thing you put on your face to keep the light out.
Yes. Yes, she does. I wish I had one.
Do you have a, do you want one with that's pink and has lace on it like she has?
No, I don't. I want one with it's liquid filled that I might be able to warm up and put on my eyes when I have a headache and
And
like
keep your eyes
mask.
nice and
it's called a
oh, it's a sleeping mask. That's what it's called.
Whatever.
Or sleep mask. Yeah.
So Jerry leaves Mom's bedroom and pulls the door shut so much that it's like all jammed up so she can't get out, right?
Well, he's very strong. Yeah, he breaks it kind of.
Yes. And then he slips into Charlie's room and he whistles Strangers in the Night.
Yep.
But do you know what Chris Sarandon wanted to whistle in this scene, Karen?
No, I'm sure
He
there are many.
really wanted to whistle While You Work from
Oh,
Pinocchio.
really?
Yeah. But Disney wouldn't give them permission. So
is it from Pinocchio or Snow White? Don't the
Whistle While You Work?
wasn't that when isn't it with the
Pinocchio.
dwarfs?
No, I'm pretty sure it's Pinocchio.
All right, hold on.
Hold on. Karen, you are correct.
Yes.
1 point for Karen. It is from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah, they whistle while they're working.
I was thinking of the Let Your Conscience Be Your Guide or whatever from Pinocchio. Congratulations.
So he wanted to whistle while you work, which would be kind of funny.
Whistle while you work, yeah.
That is kind of funny.
It would be kind of funny.
Yeah.
But Disney wouldn't give them the permission, so he had to whistle Strangers in the Night, which is okay, but
yeah, that's okay.
The other one would be.
If you don't know the other one, it's quite appropriate.
So next,
Charlie comes back up to his room.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jerry grabs him by the neck and throws him across the room. And then Jerry gives Charlie a choice, which I thought was very generous on his part.
I agree.
And he says, forget about me and I'll forget about you, Charlie.
Well, Jerry says, I'm going to give you something I never had, a choice. Correct. And then he says that, yes.
You have to think being a vampire is kind of a tragic character, right?
Well, most vampires don't become vampires by choice.
Correct.
But even in that situation.
Well, I mean, they do have a choice, but it's death or be a vampire sometimes, right?
Well, usually, yes.
Yes.
Yes. But wouldn't you, if you were in that situation, just say, okay, I'll forget about you? I would. I mean, the same thing's going to happen anyway. So why not just say, okay, deal? Unless maybe a vampire does something that makes it a real deal. I don't know, but I would have lied. Just if I'm in that situation.
So then Charlie tries to grab the cross, or he tries to put the cross up to him, but it doesn't work. I guess because he's been invited into the house, is what I thought.
I think he knocked it out of his hand.
Yeah, but you would think as soon as he shows him the cross, as he does later, he would back away, right?
Yeah, but I think he's because he's reaching for it. He just knocks his hand away. But you could be right. I don't know.
I think I'm right.
Okay.
So then Jerry holds Charlie out the window as he's strangling him. And Charlie's grabbing for anything. And he happens to knock Amy's picture off his desk or something. And it falls out the window and onto a fence and it is impaled.
Yeah.
Could that be foreshadowing or something? Maybe.
Could be.
You think at that point it could be. So then Charlie grabs a pencil and stabs Jerry in the hand.
Yeah, and Jerry's hand is around Charlie's neck, and he stabs that pretty deep. It should have gone through his own neck, Charlie's neck, as deep as he pushed that pencil through this hand.
I didn't notice that much. So Jerry turns and goes all vampire on him.
Yeah, because he's mad, and he's growling, and he has the full vampire face now and the hands. Because when he stabs him, he has the vampire hand with the nails and all that. Yes. Long nails, yeah.
And then we hear Mom knocking at the door.
Which, why does that make Jerry leave?
Not sure.
Because he says earlier to Charlie, don't wake up your mom or I'll have to kill her too.
But she's knocking at her own door, right? Because she's stuck in there.
Yeah. So why does he stop? I don't understand why that stops him.
I don't either. But Jerry leaves. And I don't understand why Jerry gives him a choice. He could have just killed him there and been done with it.
Yeah, but Jerry leaves through the window.
He does. And Charlie tells his mom he had a nightmare. Yeah. Mom asked Charlie if he needs a Valium.
I know.
And she tells him
not my mom, but okay.
Yes. And she tells him that she starts the night shift tomorrow, so she's got to get to bed and sleep all day, apparently. Then Charlie goes back to his room and watching Christopher Lee.
Okay. So you've just almost been killed by a vampire, and you're just going to casually go back to your room where it happened and turn on a vampire movie. Would you not be
the vampire movie you were watching?
But wouldn't you barricade yourself somewhere? I mean, he was almost killed. I don't know. This part was weird to me.
Yeah.
He was way too relaxed. It was like, oh, okay, I'll just go. It was still dark out. I don't know.
And then the phone rings.
Yeah. The phone rings. And who is it?
It's Jerry.
Yeah.
How did Jerry get Charlie's number, Karen?
Probably from the phone book.
The phone book. And Jerry
day.
tells Charlie that, hey, I just destroyed your car, but that's nothing compared to what I'm going to do to you tomorrow night. So apparently the Mustang is gone because we never see it again in the whole movie.
We don't see it. and nobody questions, hey, what happened to your car if it's completely destroyed? But,
Yes. And next we see Peter Vincent killing a vampire on the TV.
Yeah. And he says he believes in vampires. He calls himself the Great Vampire Killer, and then shows a movie clip of him killing a vampire.
Yes. So, Karen, do you know where the name Peter Vincent comes from?
I'm guessing Vincent has something to do with Vincent Price, because that's the kind of character he seems to play.
Yeah.
Like Vincent Price would have been a good person for this if they didn't have Roddy. That's what it seems like. I don't know where Peter comes from.
Peter Cushing, who played in all the Hammer films, played
the vampire hunter.
Yeah. What's his name?
Okay. So Renfield's popping into my head, but that's not right.
That's not
Van
Renfield.
Helsing.
Van Helsing, yeah. Peter Cushing always played Van Helsing in all the Hammer vampire films. So
makes sense.
Peter Cushing and Vincent Price. So Charlie decides he's going to go see Peter Vincent. So he goes to the studio or lot or whatever. I guess this is California. I don't know.
Yeah, he accosts Peter.
And Peter Vincent says he's just been fired.
Well, first he asks if he believes in vampires, and Peter says he does. And then he says, I've just been fired because no one wants to watch vampire killers anymore.
What do they want to watch, Karen?
Masked men hacking up young virgins.
Yes.
Which, is that a knock on Friday the 13th?
Of course it is.
Okay.
And all the others. Yeah. And Halloween. Because Halloween was the first slasher. But anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So Charlie explains that his next door neighbor is a vampire to Peter Vincent. But of course, Peter doesn't believe Charlie. And Mr. Vincent throws his shit in his car and drives away. And I thought he had a cool car, but I didn't really look into it. So I don't know what it is.
Thank God.
It was an older vehicle, though.
And Charlie's pretty much begging him, I really need your help. I need your help. And he just drives away.
Correct. Amy and Ed go to Charlie's house. Next scene. And people just run into people's houses, apparently, back in the 80s. They don't
ring
the doorbell or knock. They just run right in and say, anybody home?
I don't even know if I said that.
Just
walked in. Just in our neighborhood. But we lived in the same neighborhood you didn't do that with your neighbors?
No.
Well, the two houses for sure. That there were three that I could just walk in. My own and three others I could just walk right into. Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
You never know what's going on.
Well, they'd hear you.
Okay. So anyway, Charlie has garlic and crosses all over his room.
And candles everywhere.
Yes. And he's sharpening a point on a wooden stake.
Yes.
Charlie explains that he's going to go next door and find Jerry's coffin and put a stake through his heart.
Yeah, before nightfall, which is smart.
And Ed and Amy appease Charlie.
First she says, but that's murder. And she's trying to talk him out of it. She thinks he's a little crazy. And then she takes a different approach and says, it's almost dark. You don't want to go over there now. And then Charlie knows that Amy doesn't really believe him because he says,
does he?
Yeah, because he says, you don't believe me, do you? And she just responds with, I love you.
True.
So,
But they convince him to wait until they try to get Peter Vincent to help.
right.
Even though Charlie's already told him he's already tried and he's no help at all. But he agrees to wait. So next we see Peter Vincent in his apartment or whatever the hell it is,
I
reading
think
an
it's an
eviction
apartment. Yeah, it is.
eviction notice. Amy and Ed knock on his door and ask to talk to him. He lets them in, and they explain that Charlie is planning on killing his next door neighbor, and they ask for Mr. Vincent's help to convince Charlie that his neighbor's not a vampire.
Peter changes into a smoking jacket.
He does. And he lies to them and tells them he has to go to Hollywood for a movie. He's just been hired to do a movie.
Right.
And then Amy says, well, I have $500 savings bond I'll give you. He says, I'll take it.
Yeah, he takes her savings bond.
And agrees to help them. Next, we see a bunch of clocks hanging on a wall.
Well,
I think it's midnight. Is it midnight?
Well, wait. So before that, they decide they're going to do a vampire test on Jerry. You see that Vincent still has the prop mirror from a movie.
No, it's not really. This is before that. So a bunch of clocks on the wall. It's 6 p.m. and they all go off. And we see Jerry walking down the stairs yawning, eating another apple.
Yeah.
And then Ed, Amy, and Vincent call Jerry.
Yeah, that's so they call, but they decide before that they're going to do these tests. And he shows them the prop he has from the mirror.
He does show them lots of props he has.
But he has that specific one. I think it's a cigarette holder or something, isn't it? That has a mirror in it.
Sure.
All right. Well, the phone rings and
Bill answers
it.
Says it's for you and gives it to Jerry. And basically they convince Jerry to let them come over the next day with Charlie to prove that Jerry is not a vampire. Jerry says no crosses because he's a born-again Christian. And I don't know.
Yeah, and something else he says no to.
Well, they asked him for brings holy water, but he says it's just it will be just tap water. So he agrees to that.
But is it blessed tap water?
No, it's just plain tap water. They tell him we'll just bring tap water; it'll be fine.
Oh, they're setting up Charlie.
Yes.
Okay.
They're trying to convince Charlie that Jerry is not a vampire.
So I missed that part that it was plain tap water. I thought it was really holy water.
No, they tell him it'll be tap water.
But they tell Charlie it's holy water.
Yes.
Gotcha. I missed that little scam.
I'm not sure why they're, assuring Jerry, the person they're trying to prove is not a vampire, that it'll just be tap water.
True. What difference does it make if he's not a vampire?
Right. So next scene, next night.
They arrive at Jerry's house.
Yes. And Peter explains to Charlie that they're going to have Jerry drink the holy water because he can't kill him until he knows he's a vampire.
Yeah, because they start to go in the house and Charlie's like, why aren't you bringing a steak? Why aren't you bringing the things we need? And he says, until we know he's a vampire, we can't do anything. And then Charlie says, well, I know he's a vampire. And then Peter says, but he has to prove to me, I have to be convinced before he'll do anything. And Jerry has agreed to drink the water.
So they knock on the door. Billy lets them in. Then Jerry comes down the stairs and he sees Amy.
And he's eating another apple.
Yes, he is. Of course he is. Because he has fruit bat DNA.
Right.
And he is smitten, I wrote.
He is. He is taken with Amy. Yes. Kisses her hand.
Yes.
And then Amy says, I think he's neat.
Well, he kind of plays it off and says, oh, that's what a vampire would do, right?
Right, like exactly. Yeah.
And then they give Jerry the water and he drinks it.
Yeah, he held it near the fire first. Yeah, and I thought he was like doing something.
It's like seeing if there's anything in it.
Yeah.
Any particles. I don't know why, but that's what it looked like. I mean, he was very dramatic about the whole thing. I guess as you would be if you weren't sure if this was holy water or not. I don't know.
Maybe.
Especially if you were a vampire. But he drinks it and he's fine. Then they try to convince Charlie that Jerry's not a vampire because, he drank it and he's fine.
Yeah. And Charlie says it's not holy water. Yeah.
Yes. And then he pulls a cross and Jerry backs up. Mr. Vincent tells him to put it away. He's being rude or some shit, right?
Yeah. And this is where I just make a note, totally off topic, that Roddy's hair looks ridiculous. I don't know what they used to make it gray, but it did not look good.
Oh, it looked okay.
It looked like powder or something.
Well, yeah,
I don't know.
that's what you used.
And then Jerry basically threatens Charlie's friends.
Yes, he says you wouldn't want to cause your friends any more pain because Charlie and Jerry, they both know what's going on.
Right.
Jerry knows that Charlie knows, and Charlie, knows, right?
Yeah. So only Charlie knows that it's a threat.
It is. Yes.
Yeah. And then Jerry walks Mr. Vincent out and invites the friends to visit anytime. And Amy's like, ooh, I would like that.
And just as they're about to leave, Mr. Vincent pulls out his little mirrored cigarette thing or whatever the hell it is to, I don't know, check his face. I don't know.
I think he was getting a cigarette. I think.
Could have been.
But,
pulls out in the mirror and he sees the reflection of everyone behind him, but
except
Jerry has no reflection.
Right.
And he drops.
He's so startled.
Yes.
Yeah, that he drops it and it breaks.
And Jerry looks suspicious at this point.
Yeah, there's pieces of the mirror on the floor. And Peter says, okay, we have to go now, and ushers the kids out quickly.
Correct. But back at the car, as Mr. Vincent is getting his car, Charlie says, you saw something, didn't you? You know something. What is it? And Mr. Vincent tells them about the mirror and how he has no reflection, and basically drives off and leaves them.
He knows he's a vampire, so he drives off and leaves the kids.
Yep. And then Jerry steps on a piece of the mirror, and now he knows what the deal is, right?
Yeah. Ed tries to leave, and Charlie says no. They both have to walk Amy home.
So they're walking Amy home. Ed decides to go down a dark alley. They try to convince him not to.
Yeah. Ed says vampires don't really exist. And Charlie says, what if you were wrong? What if you're wrong?
So they separate. Ed goes down the alley.
Ed says, fuck you, Brewster. And he starts down the alley. So there you go. He's not a chicken shit. And then Ed pretends that he's bitten.
Yes, they hear a scream, and Charlie and Amy run back, but Ed pulls a prank.
Charlie's pissed.
And they leave. Yeah. So Ed continues walking down the dark alley. Again, we hear the flap, flap, flap of wings.
And then footsteps.
So Jerry flies down behind Ed and starts following him. Ed sees Jerry and starts to run. But
does that ever work?
No.
No.
Because, of course, he runs into a dead end.
Yeah. And I just want to note that Jerry's wearing a very light colored, full on leather trench coat.
Yeah, it's gray.
It's light gray. Yeah.
It's gray. With a scarf.
Right. Very 80s. He doesn't jingle when he walks, though.
No. And there's Froggy's fog.
Yes, there is.
As Ed comes to the dead end. And then we see Jerry behind Ed. And Jerry puts out his hand and offers it to Ed and says, I know what it's like to be different. No one will ever pick on you. No one ever will bully you again. So on and so forth. And Ed takes Jerry's hand.
There it is. Seals the deal.
Then we hear a scream.
Yeah. Jerry uses his leather trench coat like a cape.
And Charlie and Amy hear him scream. A scream.
But Amy convinces Charlie that Ed's just kidding. Don't let him fool you again.
So then there's a power outage as they're walking. And they come upon a fuse box or some shit, and it's all ripped to pieces.
Yeah.
So they begin running.
Yeah, they're trying to find a crowd, a bunch of people.
So they run and they try to get into a club, but they can't get in because it's a line to get in, and they can't get in. So they keep running, and everywhere they run, Jerry is right in front of them.
That's a vampire for you.
They end up getting into the club via a rear window where the cook is.
The kitchen window. Yeah.
Yes. And Charlie goes to the payphone, and he's going to call the police. He puts one coin in the payphone. Karen, what do you think that coin was? Remember payphones, Karen?
I do. 1985 was probably a quarter.
I agree. It's a quarter. Of course, the police don't believe him. But next we see Ed knocking on Mr. Vincent's door.
Yeah, he says, open the door. There's a vampire out here,
yes,
which is true.
Yes, he convinces Mr. Vincent to let him in. Then he shows Mr. Vincent that he is now a vampire. And Peter Vincent pulls a cross and puts it on Ed's forehead. And it burns.
It does. It burns. Leaves a mark.
And Ed tells him that Jerry will kill him for this.
The
And
master
he
will
jumps
kill
out
you.
a window.
Yeah, and he cries when with the burn. And I wrote, the contacts are impressive. That, they look pretty good.
So next we're back at the club. Apparently there's an Ian Hunter song playing.
Oh, I didn't notice.
It's not any Ian Hunter song that I know, but that's what the X-ray said. So
Amy
Charlie
says she's scared, but he says he's going to call Peter.
Yes, he decides to call Peter Vincent.
And Amy says, but he doesn't care about us.
And then Jerry enters the club.
Without the trench coat.
Correct. And Jerry and Amy lock eyes.
That they do.
That's never good with a vampire, I don't think.
Nope.
But Charlie gets Mr. Vincent on the phone and asks him to come to the club and help them. And while this is going on, Jerry and Amy begin to dirty dance. Correct. Just like Dirty Dancing.
Not
like
quite. Not good dirty dancing, but
well, I mean, they did a few moves and I said, that's the exact same thing they did in Dirty Dancing. Like the choreography was identical.
but it's an upbeat song and they're dancing very slowly.
Yes.
Kind of like the Fonz.
Yeah,
Remember
they're
when
doing.
in
They're
Happy
doing.
Dance?
They're doing
Happy Days.
halftime. They're doing.
Yeah.
But then eventually Charlie sees them dancing.
Well, okay, so this is where I say she's distractingly too old. She does not look 17, but at the same time, if she was 17, this would be totally gross. You know what I mean? Like he's an older man. He's putting his hand up her skirt. She's kissing his chest. I mean, she goes down the front of him. It's just, if she was really 17, that would be just, ew.
Really?
Yeah. Because how old is he?
500 years old. I don't know.
Yeah. He looks about what, 35 or 40? I don't know.
Okay. So
But then-
that's not acceptable.
I don't think so. I just think that's gross. She's not even 18 yet.
Okay.
And then there's the most awkward scene where she's dancing.
And she looks in the mirror all around the dance floor and it looks like she's dancing by myself. Right.
Sort of, but it just looks so odd.
Yeah, she's dancing and there's no one with her, right?
Right. Because he's not in the mirror. Yes.
But it doesn't deter her, right?
Oh, no.
And then Charlie comes up and tries to punch Jerry.
And first Charlie says, let her go. And he kisses Amy right in front of him. And that's when he gets mad and tries to punch him.
Yes, as you would.
But
Jerry grabs his hand and puts him to the floor, basically, right?
yeah, bends his wrist. So he goes down to his knees.
And Jerry tells Charlie to bring Peter Vincent to his house the next day if he ever wants to see Amy again.
Yeah, just the two of them. Yeah.
Yes. And then the bouncers all come in and try to break the thing up, but Jerry goes all vampire on them.
Yeah. He scratches the neck of the one bouncer and I think he kills the other one. And
I think he kills them both.
then there's just chaos. Everyone's running. And at that point, Charlie and Amy are together, but then they do get separated.
They get separated as people are running out of the club and Jerry grabs Amy. And then Charlie exits the club just in time to see Jerry, Billy, Amy, and Ed all drive away in the Jeep CJ7.
Yeah, and Evil Ed's in full vampire mode.
So Charlie goes to Peter Vincent's apartment and Peter is packing a suitcase. He gone, but Charlie tells Peter that Jerry has Amy.
Well, he says you're the great vampire killer, and Peter admits that's just a character, and Peter Vincent isn't even his real name. But Charlie says, I can't do it alone. He's begging him to help him.
Peter says he can't help him.
Right.
Next scene, Jerry's house. Amy is in different clothes, so someone has taken her clothes off and put new clothes on her.
Amy's all sexy now. She's a white gown, a very deep cut white gown.
And Amy sees the painting that kind of looks like her. And this is where I wrote, how old is Amy supposed to be?
Right.
She's 17, right?
That's what I assume.
And Jerry comes in, seduces
Shirt undone.
her. Yep. Amy undoes her top, although we don't see any more natural bare breasts.
Did you count? Did you actually say that you saw two?
Yeah, there were two
Oh.
in the beginning.
I don't know if you mentioned it. I don't remember. Okay.
I did. And Jerry
Which-
bites her,
Yep.
and blood runs down her back.
I thought that was pretty cool scene.
Yeah, but still, this is a scene where I'm like, okay, she's 17. All right. This dude has undressed her, put her in different clothes. So, yeah, whatever.
I told you it was icky starting at the dance floor, but okay, if it took you to here to get to it,
Took me to here to get
at
to
least
it.
you
Yeah,
got to it.
I got
but-
to it.
It's icky.
So next we see Charlie wearing a cross, and he's going to Jerry's house.
Alone.
And there's Froggy's fog
Yep.
everywhere. Frozen Froggy's fog. So that means it's low lying and it's rolling off the roof and things like that.
Oh, is that what you need? Frozen?
Yes.
Okay. Just a tip for you haunters out there.
And then Peter Vincent arrives with his vampire kit. Surprises Jerry. Here I come to save the day.
Exactly.
Well, first they walk to the front door, but then they said, no, let's go. Peter Vincent says, no, let's go and sneak in the back door. And just as he says that, the front door opens up.
Yeah, too late. They know we are here.
Too late.
They do talk about Billy being human because they talk about who's in the house and they discuss Billy and they say he's human because he walks outside in the daylight.
Yeah, he walks in the daylight.
Just
So he has a gun for Billy.
right. And when they walk in, the door slams behind him.
And then Jerry comes down to meet them.
Well, Peter says, let's come back at dawn. And I'm thinking, yeah, let's come back at dawn. He's running. He comes
If
out.
you make it
he's-
till dawn. Yeah.
Right. Right. He's running his big fingernail along the banister. I thought that was kind of menacing.
And he says, welcome to Fright Night. For real.
Yeah, that was pretty cool too.
And then Peter pulls out a cross, but Jerry grabs it and tells Peter, you have to have faith for this to work. Yeah, you don't have faith. So
But who does?
Remind me, Karen, to never pull a cross on a vampire.
Yeah, it's not going to work for you.
Then Charlie pulls out his cross, and that's a different story altogether. And Jerry kind of backs away. And then Billy comes in and throws Charlie over the stairs.
Yeah, and then I have a note the way that Jerry and Billy stand. Are they lovers maybe?
See, I didn't get that.
Well, at this
But
point,
that did show up in the x-ray that people have said that. And
Jerry has his arms around Billy on the stairs and his
Okay.
chin like on his shoulder right next to his head when they knock Charlie down the stairs.
well, I think in the x-ray it mentioned Evil Ed and how he was like the gay kid. Or people have said that he's a gay kid, and
Oh, I didn't get that.
I didn't
but-
either. But the director says, no, that's not, that wasn't even on his radar. But then he says, Jerry and Billy, that was all him, he says, the director. So I don't know about the director or whatever, but maybe he was a gay dude and that was, so maybe that was intentional. I don't know.
Well, it just seemed how you would interact with someone you'd been intimate with. Just
Okay.
that kind of
I didn't notice.
familiarity.
I didn't notice any of it. So
You don't notice the,
my
tender
gaydar
moments.
did not go off once.
well, it was a tender moment, so you missed it.
As I do.
So Peter runs away because he's scared.
Yeah. Peter runs away.
Goes next door.
Runs next door. He tries to wake up Mrs. Brewster.
Hmm.
Well, first he tries to call the police or something, right?
Oh, yeah, he does. Yeah.
And he finds the phone line is cut. Then he runs up to Mrs. Brewster's bedroom and finds that it is Ed in Mrs. Brewster's bed. Because, of course, we know that Mrs. Brewster is now working third shift.
Right. She's working nights.
And then Peter runs out away from Ed. And as he's running out, he knocks over a table in the hallway. Ed changes into a wolf and runs towards Peter. The wolf lunges at Peter, and Peter stabs it with a leg from the table he had just broken.
Which you knew was going to happen
Yeah, he did.
as soon as you broke the table.
But it was cool.
Yeah.
And the
This
wolf
is where
goes
this-
over the stairs, and eventually it changes back to Ed. I mean, it takes a little while. And it's a good transformation scene I wrote. And Peter obviously sympathetic to Ed,
Yeah,
right?
he's crying watching this happen because he's going from full on wolf back to just Ed, just the kid.
And then I made a note. He gone.
Yeah. Well, he kind of, as the wolf, crawls into a corner and then he starts the transformation back. It's pretty cool especially for 1985.
Yeah, it's a good, American Werewolf
Well, sure. Okay. But
in London didn't come out maybe a little later, but it was
it
was a
similar.
good it was pretty good. So next we see Jerry, and he's taking Charlie. He's carrying Charlie to where Amy is.
Yeah, Charlie's unconscious.
Yes. And he drops a wooden stake and tells Charlie that he will need it just before dawn. And he locks Charlie in the room with Amy. And we see that Amy is now a vampire, correct?
Yeah, she is.
Next, we see Peter back at the Brewster house, and he pulls the stake from Ed and begins to go next door to Jerry's house.
Yeah, that was a confidence booster for him. He's ready now.
And there's more Froggy's Fog.
There is.
Peter enters Jerry's house and picks up his vampire killing kit from the floor as he enters.
And he's still holding the stake, and he goes upstairs.
Yes, to where Amy and Charlie are. And he tells Charlie to make a bunch of noise or whatever, and he'll try to bust down the door. So Charlie starts pounding on the walls, saying, "Help me, help me, help me," as Peter Vincent is slamming into the door, trying to bust in. And eventually he does. Peter Vincent says they need to kill Jerry by dawn to save Amy.
Yeah, Charlie kind of rolls Amy over and shows Peter that she's a vampire. And
by now, Billy and Jerry in the basement know that Peter Vincent is up there helping them.
Yeah, and I did note Amy's hair is growing longer at this point.
I have a note about that later.
Well, I noticed it here and that it was already getting longer.
They go down the stairs after they leave that room and go downstairs.
Peter and Charlie are on the stairs when Billy confronts them.
Comes up and Peter shoots Billy right in the fucking head.
Right. Well, he gives him multiple warnings.
He does.
But Billy keeps coming. So Peter shoots Billy and kills him. He rolls down the steps.
Yes.
That's what everybody thinks at this moment.
But then Billy gets up.
Yes, he does.
And comes towards them.
And then Peter shoots him again.
He empties his gun.
He does.
But Billy keeps coming. Right?
Yeah, so Charlie stakes him.
Yeah, Billy picks up Peter and Jerry puts a stake through his heart. And then Billy begins to melt.
Well, he bleeds green.
Yeah, he melts.
Like green acid almost.
Whatever.
And he does melt down to the skeleton, and then he falls down the stairs and breaks into a million pieces. His bones just all shatter at the bottom of the stairs. Pretty cool.
Except for his skull.
Well, that just rolls.
Which flies across the floor, and I made a note, just like the skull, and the screaming skull.
That's right.
So next, Charlie and Peter go up to get Amy.
And she's worse.
And Jerry is watching from outside because he's a bat now or whatever. He commands Amy to kill them.
Yeah, he commands her to awake and kill them both.
And Amy screams.
Well, she goes after Peter.
Yeah, Peter goes in to check on her. She goes after him and he uses the cross to ward her off. So apparently the cross works on her.
Yeah, and it worked on Ed too, because remember it burned his forehead in the apartment.
He touched it to him.
Yeah, but maybe the older you get, the more faith you need.
So then Jerry busts through the stained glass window at the landing of the stairs.
And they showed it more than once, didn't they?
Yeah,
him busting through, and he's in full vampire mode at this point. Peter
tries to use the cross against Jerry, and once again, it does not work. But we do see the sun rising in the background.
Well, he tries again, and it does work.
Yes,
because
he tries
getting
again.
Faith, yeah.
Yes, and it does start to work. And then the clocks start going off, and it's 6 a.m. So you think it was a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. thing?
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. And then a beam of light hits Jerry.
Well, Peter says, "You're out of time."
So a beam of light hits Jerry, and he turns into a bat and flies away.
A big ass bat.
Yes.
I don't know how big fruit bats are, but He's a big bat.
But he does come around and attacks Peter.
Yes, he's trying to bite him.
Then Charlie goes to help Peter, and the bat bites Charlie on the arm.
Which doesn't seem to faze him that much.
But as he's doing that, Peter lifts him up and puts him into the sunlight. And then the bat flies away into the basement. So Charlie and Peter go to the basement.
They do.
And then Amy arrives.
Well, they hear a door creak, and Charlie says, I'll go check that out. You keep looking for the coffin. And then there's Amy.
And here's where I made a note. I like her better with long hair.
Well, and now she looks about 28.
Or 30.
Yeah,
Whatever.
she's aging and getting long hair.
And fangs.
True. Minor technical detail. She looks good. She looks pretty, but
At this
she's
point,
a vampire.
she does. I think she's okay at this point. So
Well,
then
she's
Peter,
in the flowing gown and the whole gig.
I know, but yeah, we'll get to it. Peter finds the coffin, and Amy's walking towards Charlie, right?
Yeah.
And I made a note. I think she has breast prosthetics on.
Oh, I did
'Cause-
not notice.
Earlier, her breasts were not that pronounced. I would say because she's wearing like a sheer thing, right? And you can't really see them. You just like
Well, it's sheer in certain parts and not in others.
right.
Yeah.
Her breasts look larger. That's not all I'm going to say. So I think that they're
Funny.
fake.
I don't have a note on that on here.
I
but-
do.
Okay. I just say Peter finds the coffin
No, yeah.
and Charlie keeps Amy away with a cross.
Yeah, Charlie pulls across. Then Amy begins to play head games with him and goes all vampire. That's what I have.
Well, yeah,
written
she
down.
says, "This is your fault. You promised you wouldn't let him get me."
That's right. And I said, when she goes all vampire, I made a
say-
note. I don't like her look. I
Her
don't know
mouth is huge.
I don't like that. I don't like
I don't
it.
know. It almost looks cartoonish.
It
How big
does.
her? Yeah,
Yeah, it looks like
it was
Muppet.
distracting. Yeah, it was not good.
yeah, I didn't like it. So then Peter opens the coffin and he finds Jerry, puts the stake through his heart. Jerry pops up and pulls the stake from his chest and throws it aside.
And this whole time, Amy's chasing Charlie, and there's lots of destruction all through. So it's back and forth between Amy going after Charlie and Peter staking Jerry.
And when Jerry throws the stake away, it breaks a pane of glass and light comes shining in. And then Jerry goes after Peter. And then Charlie begins breaking all the glass windows in the basement and letting all the light come in.
Yeah.
Then I wrote, it looks like Peter begins breaking mirrors in the basement.
I think he's breaking windows too.
They
Yeah.
look
they're-
like mirrors.
What's the point of that?
I know. That's why I said, why would a vampire have mirrors? But the broken pieces of mirror do hit the floor and they reflect light all over the basement.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You know what I
I thought
mean?
it was, yes.
But
I
I,
thought
don't
it
know
was
why
more-
a vampire would have mirrors. There are definitely
that's-
mirrors.
That's why they're
would a
all in the basement,
vampire- Okay.
I guess. I don't know.
Little pieces of sunlight all throughout the basement. Jerry tries to get back to his coffin, but Peter slams it shut. And as Jerry is about to attack Peter, Charlie busts open a window that hits Jerry directly with a beam of sunlight. And he goes up in a big blaze of fire and windstorm. And
Green fire.
yes,
And he calls for Amy as he's about to explode.
but he gone.
Yep. They got him.
And then Amy turns back to normal and they all embrace in a tender moment
Hugs all around.
that I noticed.
Yep. Well, way to go.
Next, we see a for sale sign on the lawn of Jerry's house.
Yep.
And Charlie and Amy are kissy facing on the bed, as you would say.
Yep.
And then Fright Night comes on the TV. And it's Peter Vincent. Apparently he got his job back, but now he's showing an alien movie instead of a vampire movie.
Yeah. It's not a movie that he was in.
Nope. Charlie gets up to turn off the TV. As he does, he thinks he sees something through the window in the neighbor's house. He's peeping again.
Yep. Can't help himself.
Once a peeper. Amy asks, is something wrong? And Charlie says nothing. And he jumps back into bed with Amy.
They're so happy.
Yes.
And we see two red beady eyeballs from the house across the way through the window.
Sequel.
And it is the voice of Evil Ed we hear saying, "Oh, you're so cool, Brewster."
Yeah, I didn't quite get that. Is that supposed to be Ed over there?
Yeah, it's Ed.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering what happened to Ed.
The end. Next, we have credits and a song called Fright Night, which is a terrible 80s song. Did I miss anything, Karen?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Except maybe Peter Vincent's car. That's going to bug me now.
Sure, you could look it up. Miss Google would know.
I'm sure I could. But whatever. I'm not worried about it now. So, Karen, anything you were pleasantly surprised by in this film? It was your choice, after all.
It was. It was better than I thought, to be honest. And I think...
I really like this film.
Again, I think besides Amy, I thought it was well cast. Is Jerry, that's who is that?
Chris Sarandon.
Was he in The Princess Bride?
He was.
Okay, I kept thinking, I know him. And I couldn't quite place it. I mean, He was okay. I don't know. It was good. It was better than I thought. I think.
You didn't think he was a good vampire?
No, I do. But I think I was most pleasantly surprised for 1985. I thought the special effects were pretty good.
Yeah,
thought the transformation was good. I thought even when the green goo coming out of Billy was a little much when it was just going out of his pants. But I thought the special effects were pretty good. His hands looked pretty real. His fingernail, all of it looked good.
Yeah, it did come up in the X-ray that was the majority of the budget, was the special effects.
Oh, well, I thought they were good for the time. And they're still pretty good. You still look at it today and you still think it's pretty good.
I agree. You've never seen the sequel or the remake, right?
No.
Yeah, I haven't either. But I always like this one. And watching it again, I was like, oh, I like this film. I really like it for some reason.
I think if you were a teenager watching it, well, in 1985, I was still a teenager, but
were you, Karen?
Yeah, you can relate to it. You can, where nobody's going to believe you. The whole trying to convince everyone, they just think you're nuts, and that's kind of a very teen thing, I think. But watching it now, I still thought it was good. I mean, the only thing I was really disappointed in was Amy's age. She just looked way too old from the very beginning to me.
So you think she was miscast? Should have used a younger looking actress?
I think she did a fine job. I don't think her acting was bad. I don't either. I think it was distracting for me to look at her. I just kept thinking, she's not 17. She's not 17. I would have guessed she was older than she actually was. I was like, this woman's in her 30s. But again, if she was 17, there were some icky parts.
Yeah.
What about you?
No, I love this film. So
you're not disappointed by anything?
Well, we're not talking about disappointments yet.
Oh.
Are we? We're talking about pleasantly surprised by.
I thought the contacts and makeup were good too. That's part of the special effects, though.
I've always liked it.
Well, what particularly do you like?
I don't know. I think Chris Sarandon's a great vampire, personally.
The fruit bat thing is weird, but yes, he is a good vampire.
You didn't think he was cool and suave and whatever?
Yeah, I think it was interesting because the older movies make the vampire older, like a distinguished gentleman.
Yeah.
And then there are movies like The Lost Boys that make them
young and sexy, and whatever.
And he was kind of in the middle, so sophisticated. He has aspects of both.
Yeah.
He's a very distinguished gentleman, but suave, debonair, but also sexy. And, he's right in the middle, but too old for the teenagers. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree.
A nice take on it. Something, they made it new because the other genres go in those two directions. Although, was The Lost Boys out yet? I don't think it was it?
That's what I made a note of. So this came out in 85. The Lost Boys came out in 87. So this predates Lost Boys.
So they're getting younger and younger. So they went from Bella to
is Max
Chris.
Younger
Oh,
this guy.
probably not.
They did use a
No.
lot of the same tropes, and I
Yeah.
noticed, about inviting, a head of the household, inviting into, or
Well,
the
that's not a
primary
trope.
owner or whatever.
That's a
It is.
vampire thing.
It's a vampire trope. It's a trope.
It's Greg. That is real. These are real things.
Okay.
Now you know why your cross isn't going to work. Were you
I'm looking
disappointed
around
in
the
anything?
room for crosses. I don't believe I see any.
So what were you disappointed in? Anything?
There were some plot holes.
Well, there are always those.
This movie could have been a hell of a lot shorter. That's all I'm going to say. Jerry didn't have to give him a choice.
That's true. Yeah, that I don't get that. Why he left when the mom was banging on the door that she couldn't get out of.
I know.
It was weird.
Yeah, things like that. I like the scene of Jerry and Charlie in Charlie's room, and he confronts him and all that stuff. So I guess they had to come up with a way to like scare Jerry away, but I'm not sure mom knocking on the inside of her door that she can't get out of is the right way.
Yeah, usually there's a dog or something.
Yeah, a dog would have been good.
Something that is menacing a little bit. But
yeah, that would have been good. A dog would have been great in this film, especially like a husky or something that looks like a wolf.
Well, something menacing for sure.
But other than that, there's not a lot. I mean, I guess the whole pedophile Jerry thing, right?
I don't know if times have changed that much, but it made me uncomfortable.
I know, but I've seen it before, and I saw it back, in 1980. I probably saw it in 87. A couple
Was it
years
icky
after.
then?
No,
See, that's
I don't
what I'm
remember
saying.
being freaked out at all. But I wasn't an older male, So maybe that has something to do with it too. But I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Or times have changed, hopefully, a little bit, where people go, "Ooh, that's not right."
Yeah, but she didn't look 17, so maybe that had something to do with it as well.
Maybe.
People forget, oh my God, she's 17. Probably a lot of states, 17 is, above the age of consent.
Yes, but still, it's still icky. I mean, I get that if you're going to get technical, sure. But is it appropriate? I mean, what do you talk about? I guess you're not talking, but it's just icky.
But he believes she's like his long lost love, right? Reincarnated or whatever.
Well, that's how it always goes. Yes. So, I mean, in the vampire movies, there's always that woman who
Lucy
looks like
or whatever. Yeah. So at least they call her Amy. They didn't call her Lucy or
right.
But we have more vampire films coming, so we'll see how those go.
Well, if you're going to let me choose, they're going to be vampire films.
All right. What kind of cocktail rating are you giving this one?
Did we give The Lost Boys a 2?
Yes.
If we gave The Lost Boys a 2, then we have to give this one a 2, I think.
Okay. 2 cocktails.
It was good.
It was good. Like I said, I really liked this movie. That's why I pressured you to pick it.
No, I totally knew it was Roddy Mcdowell's birthday. Don't ruin it.
But I haven't seen it in decades. So.
You didn't buy it at Half Price Books?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I have to watch it on Amazon Prime, just like regular people.
Just like the rest of us.
Yes.
Awesome.
So what about comments on the drink or cocktail?
I like the drink, but that's the kind of drink that I would enjoy too many of. I think
working my way around the rim.
I think a neat thing about it is if you were going to have a party, you could do that for kids where you could rim the glass and it would just be 7-Up. And then the adults and kids could, kind of have similar drinks. I think that's kind of neat, where they could feel like they were having a fancy party drink when really it's just 7-Up with a little flavor, little red. It could even be red food coloring.
Flavor enhancer.
Yes.
Apparently, the Kroger black cherry I use is supposed to provide energy.
Wow. If you're doing laps around the house tonight, we'll know.
Yes.
But you probably only use 2 drops. I couldn't really taste mine. Could you taste it?
I couldn't do a drop. I had
What
to
do you
do a
mean?
squirt.
Oh, I guess you're right. It is a squirt, but still, you're supposed to add a lot more than a squirt to the water, I think.
Well,
At least I did.
I have a thing of water here with squirts.
Well, you are drinking a lot of caffeine. Then.
A lot of energy.
I liked it. I like the drink.
I do too.
Nothing fancy though. Nothing.
No, but it'd be
straightforward.
cool at a Halloween party.
And easy.
Well, yeah.
You know.
When you have to rim the glass and shit, but nothing too complicated.
I think we could handle it.
Well, we already have.
Well, I meant at a party. After a couple, I don't know though. They might get a little wonky.
You might.
I would. We know that.
All right, Karen. Anything we can learn today?
A bunch of car stuff that I already don't know the answers to.
Lots of car. We always learn car stuff. Anything else?
I mean, if you didn't already know, you learned a lot of vampire lore.
Yeah, it's just basic vampire lore, tropes.
Lore.
It's all the same.
It's not tropes, it's lore.
Tropes.
Lore. You know, we learned that if you don't have faith, the cross doesn't work. We learned.
I didn't really know that till so
right.
We learned that.
See, and they never pulled out garlic, so I don't know about that.
Oh.
They never really used holy water, so you know.
Nope.
But the inviting you in, and we learned that before, which I think that was in Lost Boys, where we learned once they're invited in, they are allowed in until ownership of the house changes or the owner rescinds it.
And we learned that Jerry has a lot of fruit bat DNA.
Yes.
That's why he's eating apples all the time.
Interesting.
And he really wanted to whistle while you work.
Which comes from where?
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
There you go.
We learned a little bit about the Past Prime Playhouse with Bob Shreve. If you're from, Southwest Ohio, you already know about that shit, but whatever. Anything else, Karen?
No, I don't think so.
All right, Karen. Next film.
Well, it's your choice. What is it?
Is it my choice?
It is.
Is it? All right, let me look at my calendar. Oh, Stephen King's birthday is Tuesday, September 21st. You know what that means, Karen?
You have a lot of choices, is what that means.
Are you a Stephen King fan, Karen?
Not particularly. I mean, I like the movies, but I don't read the books.
It also happens to be the first day of autumn.
That's nice.
So anyway, for our next episode, I have chosen the Stephen King film, Carrie.
Which you said you have never seen?
Never seen.
Interesting.
The original.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Not any remakes. Ain't doing that. The one with Sissy Spacek.
Yeah, I think you'll like it.
What year was that, Karen? Do you know?
No. Is it in the 70s? I'm going to guess 78.
1976.
Dang. That's close.
I was too busy with Star Wars at that point.
Well, I don't think I saw it in the movie theaters. I think I saw it.
For sure I didn't either. I was way too young to be seeing films like that in the movie theater in 1976, Karen. Come on now. I know you're much older than me, but
I was probably still too young. I did see it much later.
So I have a cocktail.
Excellent. What is it?
It is called the Prom Queen.
There you go.
Which I've heard is,
appropriate. It is.
So we're going to need spiced rum, cranberry juice, pineapple juice, and grenadine. Sound familiar, okay. Karen?
It does. Okay.
No,
do you need any?
Lots of drinks have this stuff in it, apparently.
Any accoutrements?
Nope.
We don't.
That's all you need. That and a highball glass and ice. That's it.
No glitter or.
Oh, no edible glitter. No pig's blood.
Okay.
Nothing like that. So it is Prom Queen. Spiced rum, cranberry juice, pineapple juice, and grenadine. I got all that shit.
I think I do too.
I'm ready. Anyone you need to thank, Karen?
Well, we should always thank our listener.
Yes.
Definitely. And everyone
he or she.
Anyone who subscribes on any platform and anyone who leaves a review on Apple Podcasts.
And once again, if you have something to say, email us at scaryspiritspodcast@gmail.com. Anyone else you need to thank?
No, I think I'll stop there.
Okay, well, I need to thank once again Verse 13 for letting us use their music in the podcast. And once again, their info will be linked in the notes. Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Once again, we have proven that the movies might be iffy, but the drinks are solid. Be sure to show us some love and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Scary Spirits Podcast. Email us your questions and comments to scaryspiritspodcast@gmail.com. Search for us on YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast. You can find all the recipes for our themed drinks in the recipe den on our website, scaryspirits.com. And we highly recommend our Scary Spirits merch store. Lots of cool stuff with our logo on it. You can find a link to the store on the website. And remember, you can help build our audience by leaving us a 5-star review. As always, thanks for listening.